This video is about using one of those Grizzly bear crawl bases from my 18bx Laguna saw. It was shipped by UPS, and as always, everything I buy from Grizzly somehow makes it here, but somehow during the shipping, the box has been ripped open and been retaped up and everything else. The internal packaging is really stinks on these Grizzly tools. They just bounce around in the box and knock it apart. Luckily, everything was in there. Everything was, in good shape and intact, pretty much. You can see there's the wheels. They're kind of rough and nasty looking, but they got paint all over them when they painted them, but they look like they'll function. Came with all the hardware that you need. And it's got a black finish on it. It's got a lot of spots of it chipped off and rubbed off from all the pieces bouncing around during shipping. It sure would have been nice if it had been packaged better. It would have really been like almost a, perfect base. But here you can see it all spread out. It is missing some chips of powder coat or paint. The welds are a little bit rough looking on it. It's not real fancy, but actually it looks really substantially made, and it looks like it will do the job for my Laguna bandsaw at over $100 less than what Laguna wanted for their base. So this is how I went about putting it on. The instructions have a couple different ways you can assemble it, and I'm just going by the one to assemble it around a existing tool that you really can't pick up and set into it. So you start by there's these little plungers that go in the corners, and it's kind of rectangular, the shape of the top of it. And there's only one way it really fits in, so you just slide that down through with the spring, and then you just put the little rubber coated leveling pad. You screw that in there, and when you're putting it together this way, you have to kind of screw them in as far as you can so that it'll just slip under your machine tool without picking it up too tall. So you do that, and then there's a cam to push that down to actually pick the machine slightly off the ground and stabilize it when you're in position. So that's really easy to put together. Just one bolt goes through there, and then there's a nut that goes on the other side that has a nylock feature on it, so it just won't back off or anything. So that's a good thing. And then I went through and had to do the same thing to the other corner. Now I decided to put these press down feet in the front corner so it would clear the door and wouldn't have a problem opening the door 180 degrees. So this is the way I assembled it. Now, I mean, you may want to put it the other way, but so basically get that together, and then I'm going to start the bolts and the nuts that they have welded on the framework there to lock everything together. And it looks like the nuts are welded on all the way around, so they look like they're real, it's going to be a real strong joint between them. So, and then they have these really nice heavy tubular bars that go between the base. For the bandsaw, the way I'm putting it, I'm just about using the narrowest setting on it. You could always, if you wanted to go a little narrower, I guess you could always cut the bars off, but then it'll become unstable, so you're better off to put a piece of wood in, I think, as they say. So I just measured the width of the bandsaw base, and I'm just going to set this about a 1/16 or a little bit more wider, and then I'm just going to take a crowbar, and I've got some couple blocks of 3/4 inch plywood too high there. I'm going to just slide under the bandsaw to get the rubber feet up off the ground, so that way those triangular pieces that the feet sit on will, fit right under them there. So then you just put start the side bars in there. They went in pretty easy. You have to, when you have them stretched out this far for the length of the bandsaw, you have to make sure that both screws are actually grabbing the tubing, that you have it kind of centered. You don't have it pushed back too far to one side or the other. So I got that front in place, and then took my crowbar and pulled those blocks out. And this seemed to be the easiest way to do it. It's it's really easy to pry with a crowbar and stuff, so it wasn't very hard at all to lift it up. So then I just got that side back down and went around to the back, and I'm just going to put one block in the middle of the back, 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood stuck together. So that gets the back up enough to slide the back assembly in place, which is, basically the same as the front assembly, but it uses the fixed caster brackets on this piece. So then you just have to line up those 2 pieces of the tubing coming from the front and just kind of slide the whole thing together, and just make sure you have enough engagement in it to grab the tubing with both screws. And then I just kind of pushed it together and started. Okay, here I just jacked it up a little bit more, and that another piece of 3/4 inch plywood, just to get it up tight against the rubber casters while I was doing this, and kind of pushed it together a little bit. And I didn't really tighten the screws fully on this at any point in the way until I was done, so I just kind of tried to snug the screws up on this. And actually, when I got done, I went back with a dead blow mallet and kind of tapped it all together. Then go these fixed wheels, and they're just a steel wheel with a rubber coating on it, and there are 2 bushings that go in the bore. They're shouldered bushing. One goes in from each side to make the bore smaller so the screw will fit in it. And that just threads into, from the outside, it threads into a nut there. There's no real locking feature on that nut from what I can tell, and I tried to tighten them just about as far as I could to bottom out the thread in there so it wouldn't back out, but I kind of think I may pull them out someday and just put some Loctite on those threads to be safe. And then the same on the other side, just put the bushings in the wheel, slide the axle through, and just tighten it up. It's a real easy procedure for putting this together, especially around the machine. So now I got everything kind of snugged up, and I'm just going to go back and pull the blocks out from under this side, and tighten, make sure things are just snugged up nice. Now everything's pulled in place and stuff. And I just took a dead blow hammer to try to push them as tight as I could. You weren't really able to get them tight in the corners because there were some big globby welds in there and stuff that hit the corner, so there will be a little bit of a gap all the way around, but actually it did fit nice. The rubber feet on the bandsaw sat really nice on the plates in the corners of this, so so far it looks real good. And I just tried to tap everything together as tight as I could. Then I went back around the other side, and you've got to put the casters on that. And the same thing, I just used those same blocks of plywood and had to pick it up enough so I could get the casters situated right and put the bolts in. So a couple blocks of wood made it easy to, so you didn't have to strain and lift anything heavy. So there, the bandsaw is pretty much suspended on the base now. And then the casters, standard casters, 4 bolts in the corner. The wheels look like they're a cast steel, and they have a polyurethane or some kind of rubber coating on them. And they actually seem to roll really nice. And in the end, when I looked at this stand, I was really happy the way it actually matched this bandsaw. The black, the black corners on it and the red wheels kind of really went good with the bandsaw. So those casters actually have some of those nylock nuts on them, so they'll never come loose either. So basically at this point, it's all together, and I just have to get those blocks out from under it, and it's going to roll a little bit when I let it down. It jumps and rolls a little bit, but there it is. It's supposed to hold 1,200 pounds, this base. I know it holds this saw really nicely, and I went back, and once it was down on the ground on all the wheels, I just double checked everything for tightness just to make sure. and it really does roll around nice. Very stable. There's no tippiness or anything like that. The little lockdown things work really great. And you can orient the wheels however you want on this base and machine. But I put them this way because I wanted to be able to make sure that, that front cover clears everything. And it also will open 180 degrees, where if I put them in the back, it would hit that stanchion that sticks up there probably before 180 opening. So all in all, it's really a pretty nice base, and I only paid $59 for it, plus shipping. But the day I received it, I got a catalog from Grizzly where they're on sale right now for like $56. So at least this allowed me to go back and move my saw around the shop, and I wasn't going to take it off after it was moved in place, but I decided to just leave it because it really does make the saw so mobile. I actually may grab another one of these now just to put under my table saw, because I really like the way that it works. So there it is. It allowed me to just kind of roll my saw over to where it's going to be the final resting place for it. And I did have to move the rubber mats out of the way because it would not roll over them very easily. But basically it just let me roll it in place, and now I've got some dust collection hooked up onto it, and basically it's ready to go. Laguna, the bandsaw tech from Laguna, finally got back with me, and they looked over my videos, and they are sending out a new one of the trunnions and a new lower band wheel for it to try, because of the way that thing just bumped out in that one section of the wheel. So hopefully next week I'll have those parts, and I can try putting that together and upgrading it, and I'll do another video to just see how it all came out. And I must say, for the price, this really seems like a really good deal. As you can see, the welds are kind of yucky looking and stuff, but they all seem to, have good penetration and stuff, and little rust on the wheels. And if the packaging was better, it would have really probably arrived in perfect condition. And it works perfect for the saw. It clears the foot brake there, as you can see, and clears the door, and it has a nice wide stance with the four wheels. So, I feel real safe using it, and I think it was a good addition to the saw for just a couple of dollars. The funny thing is, with the collar combination, it actually even looks like it was made for the saw. So hopefully next week I'll get the parts and get a chance to go through the saw, and we'll get to see if that did straighten it out. Apparently this has been a very trouble-free model so far, so they're trying to work with the manufacturer just to figure it out and make sure that no other saws have the same issues. And I'm not sure how this would work on a 1,200-pound machine, but I do know that for a 416-pound bandsaw, it really does seem to work good and be stable. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.